Welcome in, y'all. Another week of NFL picks here. Week 9. We're almost halfway through the season. Here's my stats so far. Doing really good against the spread. I mean, top 1% overall. I did only go 7-6 this past week, but what's crazy, that's my second to worst week, and it still was a winning record. So far, so good, and I'm doing really good on those best picks videos, which I do on Fridays, 13-4 on those. But let's start with this week's picks. We have Thursday Night Football. Two two-win teams. It's the Baltimore Ravens and the Miami Dolphins. Baltimore 7.5-point favorites. No more shenanigans, you would think, with Lamar on the injury sheet. He is expected to play as of the time I'm making this, so I'm going to assume that will be the case when making this prediction. So Baltimore's favored by 7.5 in this one, and Miami got a huge blowout win in Atlanta. And I said before that Miami has kept a lot of games close this season. And against good teams too. And maybe they were due for that. However, at the same time, I still think when Baltimore's healthy, which they won't be fully healthy when Lamar comes back, but that's a big piece of it. I just think they're a much better team. I think Baltimore wins this one. I have it 31-17, so Baltimore covering 7.5. But Lamar's been out for a while. How healthy is he? Is he mobile? That'll play a factor, but, right now I do feel fairly comfortable with Baltimore taking it, but Miami's played better than you would think they had so far this year, given their record, but that is my pick for Thursday night. We've been doing pretty good on Thursday nights, actually. I think it's 3 or 4 in a row. Our last Thursday night loss was that Ram-Niner game, which that was crazy, at least against the spread is what I'm referencing. Let's jump on over to the Sunday games. We have the Colts visiting the Steelers. Colts 7-1. You love to see it. I love when the unexpected teams come out and do well. Pittsburgh dropping a few straight games now, 2 straight primetime losses, and now they get a nice 1 o'clock Eastern game at home. And Indy's favored by 3 in this one. And this is a much bigger game for Pittsburgh than it is for Indianapolis. Pittsburgh, they were 4-1. Lamar was hurt. Ravens were dropping games. Joe Burrow was hurt. The division looked like theirs to lose, and they're in the process of losing it, dropping 2 straight. That one of the Bengals really hurt. And now this one, they need it. They need it at home. However, I just didn't like Pittsburgh, the way they looked against the Packers. They had a great first half. But when Pittsburgh, it seems like when teams know they're passing, they can get to Rodgers. There's so much pressure getting to him. And the Pittsburgh defense hasn't looked great this year, especially considering how highly paid it is. They need to be better. I just trust the Colts way more in this one. Wouldn't be shocked to see the Steelers win this because you still have Rodgers, you still have playmakers, you still have a good team. They're going to win games. They're going to win a good amount of games this year. But at the same time, the Colts, I just trust them way more here. And I'll take them to cover 3. I'll take them to win the game. And the Colts move to 8-1 on the season. Then we move to Foxborough. It's the Patriots hosting the Atlanta Falcons. Patriots 5-point favorites. And who are the Falcons, right? They've had some big wins. Like that Monday night game a few weeks ago against the Bills comes to mind. They've had a few big head scratchers, 30-0 versus the Panthers. Blowout home loss. I know Penix was out, but blowout home loss to the Dolphins. Who is this team? It's tough to say. New England has really steadied the ship after a 1-2 start. They look really, really good. This one, I just trust the Patriots more, especially at home. In Atlanta, might be a different talk. I might take the Patriots to win, and I'm going to take them to cover 5 points, 24-16. But Atlanta, they're a little bipolar. Maybe they come out and they play one of their good games in this one, and they'll definitely give New England a run for their money. But New England they're cruising right now. They beat the Bills. They beat a few bad teams in a row, but they beat them pretty handily. They've looked very good doing it, which is what good teams do. Their schedule remains fairly easy for the Patriots, so, they're still competing for that AFC East. Falcons are in danger of falling out of things with a loss here. Drop to 3-5, that'd be brutal. So Atlanta needs this one more, but again, we'll go with New England in it. The next game here, it's the Chargers at the Titans. Chargers are 10-point favorites. Titans are a bad football team. Chargers coming off a little extra rest. Big Thursday night win last week against the Vikings. They looked really good in that. Herbert looks really good. He's carrying that offense a little bit. And, despite all the injuries, the Chargers are right back in this thing at 5-3. you can't slip up on a game like this. They slipped up against the Giants a few weeks ago. They, almost lost one in Miami. So the cross-country trips have been a little, spotty for them. But Tennessee is just, they're rough this year. I think I've picked against them most weeks this year against the spread, and I think it's paid off every time I've done it. So I'm going to go against the Titans once again. Give me the Steelers to win. Give me them to cover. I can't trust the Titans whatsoever right now. Not saying they don't have it in them, but there's just no way I could pick them in this spot. But moving on, we have a very interesting one here. Chicago visiting Cincinnati. Chicago 2.5-point favorites. Have not heard the extent of Joe Flacco's injury. I've heard day-to-day is all I've heard. I'm basing this expecting him to play. So we'll just roll with that. Chicago is a team that's hard to get a great read on right now. Caleb Williams is not playing well. Maybe this is a chance for him to like a get-right game for him because of how bad Cincinnati's defense has been. But, the Bears were playing a Ravens team that Lamar Jackson was ruled out late. I know they might have been preparing for Lamar, but I don't care. Teams have been kind of beaten up on the Ravens in that spot, and you kind of got beat up on. So I don't love that from Chicago. The Bengals let the Jets come back and beat them. That was inexcusable. You can't let that happen in the fourth quarter. They were looking to get back to 500. Now they're climbing out of an even bigger hole. But they were the better team in that game. I liked what I saw from Flacco 2 weeks in a row. This defense is horrendous, don't get me wrong. But I'm going to take the Bengals to win a high-scoring game. Give me the Bengals the upset win. They're underdog by 2.5 at home. I think they win. They get it done. I don't trust the Bears. I don't trust Caleb Williams in a shootout. If this goes to a shootout type of action, I just don't trust him. So that's dependent on Joe Flacco's injuries. So keep an eye on my community posts on YouTube. If Flacco gets ruled out or something, I'll make a post there changing my mind. Or maybe not necessarily, but, updating my new pick there. The next one we got here is San Francisco visiting the Giants. And this is an interesting one. San Francisco, their fans were not happy at me a couple weeks ago. I had them, down lower than some people in the power rankings. I think I had them 12 or 13 before the Houston loss. I had Houston beating them. And I feel pretty good about those right now. And now this is a spot. They're only 3-point favorites on the road against the Giants. And I think this is kind of a toss-up game. I really do think this one could go either way. Jackson Dart and the Giants have played very well at home since he took over. They've had a couple big wins there. The Niners are a little struggling to get it going on offense. And their defense, I mean, the Texans, an offense that seemed lifeless all year, was really able to kind of go all over the Niners last week. With that being said, the Niners are a team with Shanahan that they're like we're going to somehow find a way to win type of team in games like this. This is a game they need, a game on the road they have to win. I am going to take the Giants against the spread. I'll take the Giants against the spread, cover 3 points, but I'll take the Niners in a super narrow victory. This just feels like one the Niners squeak out here because they need this one. You can't go on the road and lose this one. Giant spirits after a tough loss and losing Scadaboo might be a little crushed, so I don't know. We'll see. The next one, we have Denver at Houston. Kind of weird this game is on Fox. This feels like a CBS game all over. But Houston is actually favored in this one by 1.5. The 6-2 Denver Broncos are underdogs on the road against a Texans team that looked very, very good against the Niners last week. We were just talking about them. And this one was a tough one to pick. It's two elite defenses and two offenses that at times this year have looked really good, really explosive. There's a lot of high hopes for two young quarterbacks, but then at times they've looked lifeless. They can't move the ball, some bad mistakes. So, what version are we going to get? I think this game, with how defensively prominent these two teams are, I think this game really comes down to a couple things. First off, who can catch the other defense lacking, the most? Who can get a couple big plays offensively? A busted coverage, or you draw something up that's really good and you execute it well. The big plays are important, but then also on the flip side, minimizing those mistakes. When you have offenses that have been off and on, hot and cold, a little struggling with these elite defenses, all it could take is a pick or two and you're going to lose the game. I think the turnover battle really, really decides this one there with those defenses and that team. And I think it's going to be a fun one. I think it's going to be close. With all this being said, rambled on and on here, I'm going to take the Broncos to win, to cover 1.5 points. Yeah, I mean, I like Denver here. I trust them a little more than the Texans. Still don't trust that Houston O-line, honestly. I think Denver could be all over Stroud a little bit. So, yeah, I just trust the Broncos more here, and getting them at plus 1.5, I really like that. So, Broncos to win and cover versus the Texans. Then we move on to Minnesota at Detroit, and what I assume would be J.J. McCarthy's return. I mean, Wentz, I think I heard he's out for the year. So it's got to be J.J. McCarthy time, and he has not looked great so far. I mean, the Lions are favored by 8.5 in this one, but the Vikings, they got killed in L.A. last week. You know, McCarthy comes back in, I think, and he just hasn't looked great this season, and the limited time he's had. The Lions, I know they're a little beat up defensively, but, man, 8.5 almost seems too small. I know this Vikings team, I've said it all year long, they're very, very talented. They have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, but they're just not putting it together this year. It's not looking right out there. And O'Connell was able to put together some good seasons with some, mediocre QBs, some elite seasons even. It's just not going super well so far. I'm going to take Detroit to win and to cover 8.5. Put this game in Minnesota. I might take the spread the other way, but in Detroit, I just think this is when Detroit wins by multiple touchdowns. So I'll ride with the Lions there. Then next up, gonna take a look at the Panthers at the Packers. Packers are gonna be wearing those weird throwback jerseys. They're actually gonna be like kind of brown and blue, I think. But regardless, Packers favored by a pretty hefty margin. I'm not sure if Bryce Young is going to be back this week, but regardless, I'm going to take the Packers to win and cover here. I'm just jumping right to it with this one. The Packers, they looked really good in that second half against the Steelers. I liked what I saw. They're coming back home now. The Panthers, look, it was fun, right? It's a lot of fun. They're a fun team, especially at home. But they were 4-3. They weren't as good as their record. The Bills came in and they kicked the crap out of them. The Panthers are not a very good team, even at 4-4. And I just think the Packers are a lot better. You might be careful here of like a backdoor cover. You never know there. Packers are up by 17 points, 18, whatever. Late in the game, garbage time. Panthers get a touchdown, make it look closer than it was. So maybe careful with that. But I'm gonna go with the Packers to win and cover there. But now let's take a peek at some of these late games. We have Jacksonville coming off a bye, visiting Vegas, also coming off a bye. Jacksonville, 3.5-point favorites in this one. I've also seen 3 some places. Vegas, they started 1-0. It's been a rough year since then. Their only win coming against the very bad Tennessee Titan team. Jaguars started 4-1, and it's been a rough couple weeks since then. Their offense has managed 12 points and then 7 points. So not looking great so far, or not so far, but the last few weeks from Jacksonville. Coming out of a bye, maybe they get the offense figured out a little bit. You could say the same for the Raiders, who put up, I think, 0 in their last game, which was in Kansas City. So we'll see who can figure it out. But at the end of the day with this one, I think these are 2 a little below average teams. And, I am sorry, Jacksonville fans. I'm always excited when a team who's not supposed to be good does really well. But I think Jacksonville at 4-1 got people a little too excited about them. Pump the brakes a little bit. I think they're middle of the pack, maybe just below middle of the pack. But at the end of the day, they are just better than Vegas. Jacksonville has a good enough record and an easy enough schedule. They have a chance to make the playoffs, and you have to win games like this. Coming out of the bye, I'm going to trust they could figure something out on offense, and it's a great team to do it against the Raiders, who've had their struggles. I think they come in, they get a win. I think they cover on the road. Never an easy task in the NFL, but I'm going to take them to do it. But one of those games wouldn't surprise me if Vegas found a way to win this one, to be honest. But I'll ride with Jacksonville in that one. Then next up, it's the Saints visiting the Rams. Rams coming off a bye. They actually played Jacksonville last week. A dominant performance, 35-7 that was. And they're looking to keep it up against a very bad Saints team. Rams favored by 13.5 points. I don't know. I was going to say this is a great game to have coming out of a bye, but you could look at it both ways. I think coming out of a bye, maybe sometimes you want a really good team you get to prep for, but also times some teams come out rusty from byes and you get a nice easy opponent and you take care of business and you move on. Sometimes that's good as well. But regardless, an easy opponent is what the Rams have here. They're at home. Feels like a minute since they've been home. And I think they take care of business. There's really only so much to say here. The Saints, I love what I've seen from the Saints this year compared to what I thought I'd see, which is crazy considering they're still 1-7. They put up a lot of fights. Maybe they stick in this one. They've been a gritty team. They've limited turnovers. But I just think the Rams are too much. I think they're going to get all over whoever's going to be quarterbacking for New Orleans. I think the Rams roll. Puka should be back. I think it's one of those, it could be over early. So I'll take the Rams big. I'll take them to cover the 13.5 and to roll against the Saints. Then the prime game of the late afternoon, the 4:25 Eastern on CBS. You got Tony Romo, Jim Nantz. It's the Chiefs. It's the Bills. This is a great one. It's one of those games we all look forward to. I'm super excited for this one. And this is one I dreaded having to pick. I did not want to have to pick this one. I went back and forth on it. I feel both ways. And this is one of those that I don't think you're wrong for picking either one. This is such a toss-up game. The brain here says Chiefs. But the gut in this one, I'm going to go with the Bills in a super narrow victory. The 1.5-point underdogs, I'm going to take them to win by 1. And really no rhyme and reason having them above the Chiefs in this one. If this was in Arrowhead, I do probably go with the Chiefs. But just, I don't know. One thing I do think about with this one, again, this is just a feeling. This goes the other way. I feel like usually it's the Bills that look dominant in the regular season and the Chiefs are really just scrapping out games. The Bills, mind you, last week they were dominant, but they scrapped out a lot of games against bad teams this year, and they've had a couple weird losses. Meanwhile, the Chiefs have been dominant since the early couple weeks. Maybe it flips around. I don't know. It's just great football. Two great teams. There's only so much you can say about this game. It's a coin flip. It's going to come down to the last drive, right? We can dig into this game. We can analyze it all we want. It's going to be close. It's going to be a fluke fumble here, a weird ref fourth down call that crossed the line, but they say didn't. There, something like that. I don't know. It's going to come down to the end. It's going to be super fun. Looking forward to it. I'm going to roll with the Bills narrowly there. Then Sunday Night Football. Really a good game if Jaden Daniels can be back, and a fun uniform matchup too. You got Seattle in those throwbacks and Washington in the, what are they? I don't know what they're calling them, like modern classics. It's basically the Skins jerseys, but with the new Commanders logo. This is one I usually don't do this. I've actually never done this. I'm going to make this pick on my community post, like on YouTube. You can post there. I'm going to make this once I know for sure, A, if Jaden Daniels is playing, and B, how healthy is he when he's playing? Because as of recording this, I have no idea. I don't know if he's playing, and that really affects this pick here. I mean, it's a drastic, and it sounds up in the air. At first, I thought he was, then I'm like, maybe he's not, and I don't know. Seattle's favored by 3.5. I will say that with Jaden Daniels in, I do definitely lean Washington plus 3.5. I just don't know if that number is kind of assuming he's out or plays but is really dinged up. So I don't know. A lot still to unfold here. It's early in the week. I like doing these. But yeah, I'll make that pick here later on. I might even toss something in the comments to let you know here as well. We're going to move on to Monday night. It's the Cardinals at the Cowboys. And Cowboys are favored by 2.5. And a fun little stat for you. I don't know. Usually they prop this up after a team does it on TV. They have those stats real quick. I don't know if a team has ever started the season with 3 straight home games reaching over 40 points. But the Cowboys have scored 40 or more points in all 3 home games so far this season. And And I don't see a reason they don't do it again, frankly. Does that mean they'll for sure win? Well, that defense, no. But I just think they're a little better than the Cardinals. And really, them only being favored by 2.5 scares me a little bit. I think the Cardinals are better than their record. Let me make that very clear. They've lost 5 straight, but 5 one-score games. The last 2 without their starting quarterback against 2 of the best teams in the league. So Cardinals are not a pushover. 2-5 does not accurately reflect who they are as a team. But they're still, middle of the pack. Right, it's not like they're super great. Cowboys' offense is just elite. Their defense is absolute garbage. So who knows what's going to happen in this one. I'm going to take the Cowboys 40-32. I think that's by far my highest score prediction ever in these. But really, right, they've put up 40 points in the 3 home games so far. So, why not, right? So 40-32 in this one. I was going to have Arizona at 31, but figured, toss in a 2-point conversion, something like that. So I do like the Cowboys there. I like them at home. The only thing I don't like about this is the line. It's fishy to me. Cowboys only favored by 2.5. Not like they're a dominant team or anything, but, it's not like everyone's wanting to jump on the Cardinals. So it's a little fishy to me, but I'm going to take the bait. If it is bait, I'm going to ride with Cowboys 2.5. So those are my picks for the week. I'm sure you disagree multiple spots, especially if I picked against your team. I'd love to hear why you disagree. I'd love to hear specifically what your picks are, not just that you disagree. I love hearing other people's picks because sometimes people will provide insight that I didn't even consider. So love seeing that. Let me know what y'all think, and I'm looking forward to another great weekend of football.